because this was somebody else that we talked to a bit before the show, who we also grew up with. So now we have 3 people from Waco who wants to share her experiences.
And I also started talking to this person recently about religion.
Yeah, and so
it's like
Katie,
it's all coming full circle.
Katie from Waco, you are live on Truth Wanted. What's going on?
Hello. Well, I'm actually just sitting in my car. I'm about to go back to Waco to see some family.
There you go.
And so yeah, I just I've been doing a lot of deconstructing of my faith lately, so that's been interesting.
Yeah, and so we were talking before, and you had mentioned this, and I thought, what a great opportunity for, I asked if you were willing to come on the show and talk about this, because we are all 3 people from Waco who are deconstructing our faith. Yeah. And I think that's interesting. I don't know, because again, like you wouldn't expect it from the people around us, and yet here we are. So like, what's that journey been like for you, Katie?
Well, it's been, a lot of it is just like, I had some really bad experiences in the church, just with like abusive relationships with guys, and just the church telling me that, I just need to pray away my problems, and, just like treating me like I don't have enough faith.
See, that's that competitiveness.
Yeah, that's exactly what we were talking about. Like, you're not a good enough Christian to run with the dogs, so you're always feeling bad about yourself. Yeah.
Exactly. And it's just made me like start questioning, like, if God really does love me that much, why would he want me to work so hard to earn his favor?
Exactly. So that was something that like just never made sense to me.
Yeah. So it's like, is this even like for real? Like, and if it is for real, like, why would I want to worship a God like that?
And something else that you mentioned to me earlier, Katie, was you studied in your college classes. You actually studied some of the Bible and did some like Christian classes, right? And that kind of also shook you in some ways.
Yeah. Well, it just like, that was my freshman year of college. I was taking a Old Testament Bible class, and my professor basically just explained to us that the Bible was made by man, like it was put together by man. Man decided what got put into it. They basically decided what the word of God was. And so I was like, well, is it even really the word of God then? Because if it's made by man and it's written by man, then it's humanly flawed.
Yep.
Yeah, like until I really started to understand the opinions of like mainstream biblical scholarship, I did not understand the Bible. I thought I did, I thought I had the general outlines, but I didn't know the who, what, where, and whys of the creation of the text. And digging more into that, you start to see like, oh, there is like secular explanations for why you see some of the things in here, and maybe this doesn't sound as divinely inspired as you thought when you take into account certain contexts, right? People always talk about, oh, you have to read the Bible in context, but like, if you really look at it in context, sometimes it doesn't give you the answer you want either. So yeah,
and why would you have to do all of these, like, why would you have to jump all these hoops to read the Bible in the right context? Like, why would God do that to you? Like, why would he set you up for failure so bad? Like, that's what I don't understand either. And it's like, what denomination is right? Because you can read the Bible in so many different ways. There's so many different denominations. No one can make up their minds on what they mean. And like, if you don't make up your mind, or I mean, like, if you make up your mind in the wrong way, which one is gonna send you to heaven or hell? Or if you're all gonna go to heaven because you believe in God, or and you're any denomination, then why have these denominations?
Yeah, like, it gets confusing. It gets confusing really fast. But Katie, I want to know now, now that you've kind of asked yourself these questions and you've deconstructed, do you have a label for where you're at right now, or is that something you're still processing?
Well, I'm I'm still kind of processing everything. I would probably label myself as agnostic right now. But I've definitely walked away from the Christianity label. Like, I'm not going back to that. But I'm still like, I don't know if maybe there is some sort of supernatural spirit out there. And so I've kind of been exploring in Wicca and witchcraft, just because I'm interested in that, and I'm interested in the divine aspect of it. Yeah.
What I really like about Wicca and witchcraft is, I mean, whether you end up believing it or not, but I definitely see what's so appealing about it as far as people that were Christians. Because I see a lot of people that were Christians and they go to Wicca. It might just be because of the people I see. But I see that a lot of the appeal of it is the appreciation of nature. And I think that you're taught in Christianity to use up what's around you. God gave you these resources, just use them up. Doesn't matter. And Wicca and witchcraft and paganism, those sorts of things, as far as I understand it, are very opposite of that. They're always like, this is what the earth has given you. Appreciate it. Take care of it. And like, whenever you look and see the environmental impact that we've had, I definitely understand why it is such an attractive religion to a lot of people that were on the other side of the environmental impact.
Yeah, you know, I can definitely see the attractiveness of the religion. I mean, the aesthetic is kind of cool, you know, and the rituals and the spells and stuff. I mean, all that is kind of neat, I think, in concept. I think the reason why I could never myself identify as a Wicca, at least not at this point, would pretty much be, you know, the lack of demonstrable evidence of any of the kind of rituals or spells doing what they set out to do. And I don't mean in like, oh, well, if you do this spell, it's going to make you feel good. You know, like that's kind of too vague for me. I think you definitely find a section of the Wicca community that's like, no, we're going to do this stuff and a storm is going to happen, or this election is going to go this way or another, you know, and like, that's just clear signs to me where it's like, well, if it doesn't work, then it doesn't work, or at least it doesn't work the way you think it does, you know? So that would be hard for me to kind of go down that path, I guess. But I don't know. What do you think about that, Katie?
Yeah, I think that's where the difference between Wicca and witchcraft comes in, because you can be Wiccan and a witch, but you can be a witch without being Wiccan.
Okay.
So, like, you can be an atheist and still practice witchcraft, and not like believe in any deities or spirits or anything. That's true. But
you're right.
You can like use the science as magic.
The science as magic? Can you explain that a bit more for me? I don't know what that means.
Basically, everything that we thought was magic in the past is science. You know, like we had alchemy and, you know, and astrology and all that. And it ends up being science. And so any sort of like magic is like just unexplained science.
Yeah, there's that Isaac Asimov quote, right? Where he's like, you know, what science fiction or what science would develop tomorrow is basically what seems like magic to us today, you know. And the more that our technology develops and the less explanations the common person has for it, it just kind of seems like magic, you know. I'm paraphrasing that quote. I didn't say it like that, but yeah, I definitely see where that sentiment comes from. But I also make the distinction, I think, because when people use magic, generally they're using it in a specific context that's like against kind of the material laws of the world, right? Like that's what magic would be to me. If Jenna could start floating off of her sofa right now and there wasn't like a draft or something, or I don't know, any material explanation I could give for it, that's something I could call magic. But you know, the things with our scientific developments, there's still an explanation for a lot of what we see, even if we don't fully understand the mechanics. It's, you know, we oftentimes operate under the assumption that it's still following physical and material laws. So, I just like to make that distinction because, like, I think science is cool and it is magical to use one sense of the word, but I definitely try to be super careful not to conflate in those two different senses. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, I totally get that.
Yeah. So one last question.
I think another thought that I have.
Go ahead, Jenna.
Oh, another thought that I have about like Wicca paganism in general is a lot of these religions stem from Irish, that over in that area. And I feel like the reason why it is so popular over here is because those are our descendants. So it's the religion around nature that is available to a lot of Americans. And I mean, like, I'm just going to talk in context of America. So I feel like that's why we stick to it. And it's not necessarily because it's the best one around nature, but because it is what is available. And I think there's a lot of really great things that come with focusing on nature. And I think as long as you understand them to all be scientific, I think a lot of like the spell stuff, as long as you understand the scientific limits of it, I think it can be a good way for people to meditate and self-reflect. Which I think is in general the thing that makes me feel more calm about people being religious, as long as they use it as a form of self-reflection, then that can only do good as long as they understand the scientific limitations.
Yeah, like a developed practice of observance, of self-reflection, or observance of nature. Like, yeah, that's something we could vibe with, right? But I also I don't feel like I need an organized set of beliefs in that sense, or religious beliefs to have that awe for nature or for science, which I think is a common Christian thing. They're like, oh, look at the trees, man, like, isn't it wonderful? It's like, yeah, I think it's wonderful. Does not point me to a God at all. At least not the Christian.
That's why I think,
Yeah,
that's why I think that it's easy to try and lump it in with these religions that are available to us as Americans, especially with European heritage, and then even some other cultures, their descendants look at the cultures of their ancestors, and they reflect it back to that. But I don't think that you need a specific religion in order to have that connection with nature and yourself.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. We got like tons of calls on the queue tonight, guys. I'm really excited.
Oh my God.
So I want to ask Katie one more question before we kind of wrap things up here. When you were in high school with us, did you ever think in a couple of years you'd be on an atheist talk show with your friends Jenna and Dan?
No, I mean, I was one of those people who didn't really like fit in, but I was pretty like super Christian because my mom was a minister in the church. And so it was just kind of expected of me, to be super Christian. And I was like, basically the stereotypical Christian high schooler. I was like, I didn't like gays. I didn't like, I didn't like trans people. I was very Republican. In my worldviews. And then I went to college and it all just flip-flopped. And now I am gay and I'm liberal.
It's our liberal indoctrination from our university systems. That's what it is. We got that liberal disease, as some people call it. I don't know, but Katie, I just want to thank you so much for taking the time to call into the show. Good to talk to you again, and really thrilling.
Yeah.
Not very often I get to talk to people from Waco, and we get two of them tonight. So we'll definitely catch up in the future.
Yeah.
And thanks again for talking to us tonight.
Yeah, it was nice talking to you.
Really, really cool. I mean, like,